Hey everyone, so I thought I'd go live and talk about baby-led weaning because yesterday those that follow me on Instagram and Facebook would have seen I posted our journey so far. So we've been doing baby-led weaning for 2 months now and it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it, and loads of people were in my inbox yesterday and commenting, asking different questions. So I thought it'd just be easier to go live and do a video and just tell you everything I've learned so far, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, and then you can go from there with your journey and see if it helps you. As always, if you've got any questions, then pop in my inbox or comment below. But everything depends on your child. Just don't feel pressured into doing anything that you're not ready for. So those of you that have been following our journey knows that Theo choked. I can't even remember when now. It's now all such a blur, but it seems like such a long time ago. But I think around like February, maybe January, February, he choked on some gripe water, and Rich wasn't here, nobody was here, so basically I freaked out. So I did a first aid course. Now I cannot stress enough how much I think those first aid courses are worth it. Like, considering that most baby groups would set you back about £8 to £10, £13, £14, some of them, £25 per person for a first aid course I think is invaluable, because it's gonna help you just in general, just to know what to do if something happens, or if God forbid baby does choke whilst in the baby led weaning stage, you know what to do. You're going to feel more confident seeing those signs, knowing what's going on, than anything anybody else can teach you. And I wish I could talk to you all about everything I learned on the course, but I'm not an expert in it, and I would prefer you to go to see an expert to learn those things. And don't get me wrong, even after doing the course I was still a bit nervous, but now, because done the course, I feel so much better with everything, because one of the key things is babies have a really sensitive gag reflex, because that's their way of basically stopping themselves choking. So a lot of the sounds that you'll hear a baby make won't be choking. So the key thing that I will always remember is loud and red, let them go ahead. Silent and blue, they need help from you. So if they're making noise, that means they're gagging. Choking would be silent, you wouldn't be able to hear it. But it still freaks you out when you hear that noise. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing worse than hearing that gagging noise, which is why a lot of parents struggle with baby-led weaning, because obviously babies are going to gag a lot more because they're getting used to different textures, they're getting used to different size objects going into their mouth, whereas with purees they won't gag so much on it. But you will find later you then have to then start introducing solids. So I'm not going to tell you that doing it one way and or the other way is wrong. It is up to you. It's what you feel comfortable, what works best for your family. I know some of my friends, some of their babies have tried baby led weaning and it hasn't been the right journey for them, be it the mums not being confident enough, or baby might have a lot of allergies, so puree might be easier. For us personally, I found baby led weaning so much easier than purees, because purees are expensive. Let's start there. Purees are expensive. Like, have you been down the baby aisle recently? I went to do a modelling photo shoot with Theo the other week, and I was stressed so much about what food to take. Oh, I don't want him to get messy. And somebody said, oh, I give my babies purees because it's less mess. So I thought, you know what? Let me grab a puree. £1 per pouch, which doesn't seem like much, but if you're solely feeding your baby purees, that all equates to so much money. Like a pound, I think it was like £1 per pouch, or some of the pouches were like £1.50. The crisp things, like a packet of crisp was like 78p, or like £1.50. It's just insane, these prices of things. And I before I go on to anything else, I also like to say what I have learned since doing baby led weaning from experts and from people that I've attended courses from, is that things like baby rice, baby porridge, all of that stuff marketed for babies is basically just a marketing scheme to, like, babies can eat rice, they can eat our porridge, like they can eat adult stuff now, like they can literally eat the same food as us, which is a hell of a lot cheaper than buying baby porridge. If you want to buy the baby porridge, if you want to buy the baby pasta, baby rice, whatever, do it. It's down to you, it's your choice. But if you don't have the money and you don't want to buy those things, just buy regular stuff. And that is one of the big things for me, is the cost. The having to prepare separate meals for baby and separate meals for us. No, with baby-led weaning, you can literally prepare the same meal for both of us. Just going to check on the baby, or I think Richard's going. But you can literally prepare the exact same meal as you would for yourself for your baby. So for me, it's easier. I don't have to think so much about what I'm doing. It's cheaper. And babies exploring, they're getting used to the textures, they're getting used to knowing what can be put in their mouth, what's going to cause them to choke. And it's them getting used to their own limits. So like now, you would eat, say, for example, I don't know, you would eat a bowl of pasta and you wouldn't shove the whole bowl of pasta in your mouth. You know, as an adult, that you can have so much pasta before you're full, before you gag, anything like that. So babies have to learn that. And by starting off with puree and then moving to food, all you're doing is prolonging that. So you're starting on puree, you're getting them used to taste, but they don't know what they're eating because everything looks the same. So the other way, they're getting used to the looks of food, the taste of food, the smells of food. Whereas if you puree everything, it all looks and smells the same. Yes, the taste is different, but babies can't differentiate and work out what their limits are for solid foods. So if you feel better starting with purees than working to solids, do that. But whatever you do, just make sure that you're confident in what you're doing, and you know where you're going with it. I did a couple of free courses that your local, I don't know what it's called, is local council, local district will sort. So I live in Hertfordshire, so I'm in the borough of Hertsmere. So on their website, they provide an intro into solid workshop, which is free. But I know, because I used to live in Southgate had one as well. And so I believe it's every single district. If you basically go to whatever website you would have been provided after you gave birth, or if you're not sure what that is, pop it in the comments. I'm happy to look it up for you. But normally they will do some sort of intro into solids workshops. There are loads of things that you can pay for out there, but if your local council's one for free, like, jump on that. Like, you don't need to pay for a course. You don't need to overthink it. I think the problem is with all of us is that we get into our heads about it and we overthink everything. So when I first started, especially, I was like, is there enough food? Is he still going to be hungry? What about if I don't cut something right? Like, it's all learning. We're learning together, and you'll soon learn if it's not the right thing for you and your baby. Like, it just comes. And also, a lot of mums that I know, their babies might not have ate as much as my baby. Like, it's so hard not to compare yourself against other babies. But as I say, like, you don't see any adults that can't sit up, can't roll, can't eat, can't walk. Like, doesn't matter when we do it. Each of these babies are going to learn how to do it at some point. So don't stress about it. And I know it's hard when you see everyone on social media doing a certain thing. Like, even me, I'm seeing babies crawling left, right and centre. And I'm like, why aren't you crawling? Like, all these kids are younger than you. But he will crawl when he's eventually ready. Like, it's probably best that he doesn't, because we so haven't child-proofed anything. But don't compare about anything. Look what's best for you and your child and what's working for them. Sorry, this might be a really long video, so you might have to come back to it. But yeah, so don't compare, and get yourself prepared and work out what you're going to do with your baby. So the top things that you need is a high chair. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. I bought a Silver Cross because after doing reviews, it was very safe and all of this, but I do regret it because there are so many little, like, nooks and crannies that I have to get out a paintbrush and, like, proper clean it to get all the food out. And bear in mind, you have to clean this high chair like a minimum of 3 times a day for breakfast, lunch and dinner eventually, and then when you do snacks and things like that. So get yourself a chair that's easy to clean. I know a few people that have got the Munchkin 360, which doesn't have any like holes, so you can clean easily. The IKEA one I know is a firm favourite because it's really simple to clean. Like, just do your research first. Like, honestly, it's a really good high chair and I love it. But as I was saying to Rich the other day, it is a nightmare because you actually have to take everything off and get right into all of the things and then clean all down the seat as well. So it's whatever you prefer, but for me it's just a lot of work. But we've got it now, so hey ho. Get yourself a high chair, get yourself some bibs. Obviously they do the bibs that just go round your neck that are small, but what I found is the food kept dropping, like I got all these silicone ones and they kept dropping down the back of them, or it's got like a little tray which catches the food, but the food was just going on his legs and side. So the best bibs that I found really are these sort of like, they look like aprons, more like what you'd get if you're painting, and they go on like a t-shirt, so they completely cover them. The lady that made these ones stopped selling them, unfortunately, but there's loads on Amazon as well that I bought. They're not as good, they don't wash as well, they break quite easily, but there are loads out there. The Amazon ones I think were £5 for like 3 or 4, so even though they break after a while, they are cheap. So it's whatever you want. We've been doing, where it's hot and summer at the moment, I've been doing a lot of meals with him just in his nappy, and then literally sticking him in the sink or sticking him in the shower afterwards. But definitely I would get something like this that covers them, because I don't know how, but the food gets everywhere, and things that I didn't think stain. So yeah, definitely cover them, or do it naked, because otherwise you're just going to be buying new clothes or trying to get stains out every day, which nobody wants to do. So you've got high chair, bib. You need also some form of plate. Now you can get plates that range from like £2 to like £20. Depends what your budget is. I did buy one of the expensive plates. It's cute, it looks like an animal. It's my first baby, but it's not necessary. So if you don't have the money, don't feel pressured. Like, a plastic silicone plate will work just as well as a really expensive bamboo plate. There's like not much difference in it. I have heard that bamboo plates are better than the silicone ones because they don't hold smells and things like that. Think of Tupperware. When you carry your lunch in a Tupperware, say if you have like spaghetti bolognese, how many of us have had the Tupperware pots and it's turned red from spaghetti bolognese or from a curry, and you can still smell it in there? So the plastic ones do hold smells more, but yeah, there's not real much difference in there. So just go with whatever your budget is and what you prefer, really. It's just a plate at the end of the day. It's just a plate. Knives, forks, things like that. I think it's good to have a spoon, a knife and a fork, or a spoon and a fork when they start to get them used to it. He was really using his spoon at the beginning. Now he just uses his hands, but we do try and give him a preloaded spoon, so he's got that option there, and so he does acknowledge it and try, so eventually he'll carry on using it. But all this stage, this first year stage, is about them exploring, getting used to food. He's getting his nappy changed, that's why he's sad. Rich is trying to make him laugh, but it's about them getting used to the textures, getting used to putting the food in their mouth and not gagging, and finding their limits. It's all just about that experimentation. So don't get hung up on they haven't ate this much, they're not doing this, because it is literally just about learning. They're still getting all their main nutrients from your breast milk or from formula, whatever you're doing. Plates, high chair, bib, a cup. So it's still a bit of a debate what cups you should use. If you speak to the older generation, they will tell you to use a sippy cup. They're now saying that it's better for baby to use an open cup or a cup with a straw. Sippy cups aren't really recommended anymore. Again, each to their own, is what you want to do. We just got an open cup. We got a panda ear cup, which I'm really excited we will be working with soon as well. But we got a panda ear cup, and it's really nice, quite weighted cup that's open. And from the beginning, because we was teaching him how to use it, now he can hold on the cup and literally just drink from it. Sometimes we need to hold the bottom, but majority of the time he will take the cup and he will drink himself. And I think it's really good for them to learn that earlier on. But again, it's down to you. It's down to your preference. It's completely up to you. I mean, I drank from a sippy cup when I was a baby. It did me no harm. I can drink from a normal cup now. So I don't think it gives any harm, but it makes it easier for you in the long run, what I gather. But I'm no expert, so don't quote me on that. So yes, that's all the things you need. Then you need to know if your baby's ready. So the NHS advises to feed your baby from 6 months with solid foods. There are some cases that the health visitor might say to give food earlier, but the general guidance is 6 months. And to be honest, I waited till 6 months because I wasn't bothered to clean all the time, do the washing up all the time, think about meals all the time, and B, like, I really enjoy breastfeeding. Yes, I do the occasional bottle of formula as well, but for me, it's like a bonding thing for the breastfeeding as well. So for us, it just works. And when you're out the house, like, it's easier to whip my boob out than it is to sterilize and take formula or to bring food. Now he's eating as well. I'm like, oh, if I leave the house here, I need to remember to take this food and this food. And like, whereas before it was like, have I got my boobs? Yes, let's go. Do you know what I mean? So it does get a little bit harder when they're eating. So I wouldn't rush that. Like, babies are only babies for so long. Enjoy just having them as a baby, and then enjoy the experience when they get from 6 months. But again, it's up to your discretion. It's what you want to do. But it's knowing that your baby's ready. So when your baby would be ready for food is if they're showing signs of it. So they can't be slumped. They need to be able to hold themselves up. So that doesn't mean they have to sit up by themselves, but if you sit them up, can they sit up unaided so they'd be able to eat? If they're still like slumped down, they can't hold their head up properly, it's not safe to give baby food because obviously they can't chew it properly, they can't digest it properly, so they need to be sitting up. Some people say, oh, they're grabbing for food, that means they're interested more in food. It's a bit of one of those that we're not sure if that's why baby wants food or if it's just because baby now wants everything, now they're acknowledging things. But make sure, yeah, the baby can sit upright and holding themselves upright. I've wrote down some notes to try and like remind myself of what to go through. So I'm hoping I'm not going too fast. If anything's going too fast for you, then let me know and I will go through it more detail. So we've spoken about the gagging, thirsting, choking. We've spoken about what the things are that you need to get in preparation. I mean, I say need, but I'm sure people didn't have high chairs back in the day, so if you can't afford a high chair, don't stress about it. Like, as long as your baby can sit up and you've got somewhere that's safe for you both to explore eating, even if it's both of you sitting on the floor or having the baby sit on your lap, as long as it can hold itself up, then it's fine to do it. And then it's, what do you feed baby? And as I said before, when you're doing baby-led weaning, it's pretty much everything you can feed baby. Baby can eat exactly the same meals as you, which is why, for me, it's just so much easier than purees. So for the first month, I was serving things separately first, so baby could get used to the taste and so we could discover allergens. Now is a really good time to figure out if baby has any allergies. So I would always serve things separate. So say, for example, if I was to do sweet potato, I would do just sweet potatoes. Then I know what baby likes, what baby doesn't like, and if there's any allergies. Now, when you introduce any food that is a high allergen, it's recommended that you do this first thing in the morning. So I always recommend to be fully dressed, ready to go out the door. So if the baby has an allergy to something, you are ready to get out the door, you're ready to go hospital, rather than baby's got an allergy, I've got no clothes on, what do I do now? Not ready, don't know where my car keys are, don't know where my house keys are. Get everything ready as if you was going out, then feed baby. Then if there's an allergy, at least you can get straight out the door. And it's recommended to do allergy testing like 3 to 5 days. So for example, if you introduce nuts, so say for example if you do peanut butter, you do that and then you wait 3 days, make sure there's no reaction. If there's no reaction, then you can move on to the next allergen. Once you've done the allergens, you can then put food together. So for example, if you've done an allergy for peanuts and an allergy for yogurt and he was fine with that, you can then serve them together, but it's best to serve them separately at the beginning. So if there is an allergy, if there is a reaction, you know what it is, rather than going, oh, I gave peanuts, I gave yogurt, I gave seafood. Like, what are they allergic to? If you do everything separate, then it's a great way to find out, right, this is what the allergy was for, this is what reaction was. And it's also good to write a journal so you know what you've tried, when you've tried it, if there was any reactions. And what they say is, if it's a real mild reaction, try it again, because people can build tolerances of things. Obviously, if their throat closes and they're covered in hives, don't try it again. But if there's like a tiny little rash, it's not that bad. Wait a few days, maybe then try it again in the future to see if it is an allergy or if it's something that they can build a tolerance for. Which is why also they say do the allergen testing as soon as possible, because it's good to start introducing these foods and building up the tolerance for it. Whereas if you don't introduce it, then you try later on, there's a higher risk of developing an allergy for that, if that makes sense. So some of the things that are allergens, for example, is nuts, which is a really common one. Eggs, which I didn't know is a real common one for babies. So we think Theo had a little bit of an egg allergy at the beginning. He came up with little rashes here and there, but I kept introducing them, and now he's fine with eggs. But you got dairy, eggs, wheat, nuts. I've said nuts. Seafood, like, I can't think off the top of my head. Soya. There's loads of allergens, so make sure you look up the allergens first so you know when to introduce them and what they are. Sorry, pardon me. Bread has a lot of allergens inside it. So bread, you get like wheat. Some breads have like dairy in it as well. Some breads have egg in it. So there's a lot of allergies in bread. So it's best to introduce bread later on than at the beginning, just so you know if there is an allergy to any of the products contained in bread. Bread's another funny one as well, because it also has a lot of salt in, and some breads have a lot of sugar in. So be mindful about the breads that you're using. I didn't realise this. I don't know why, because I knew that some breads have sugar in it. But I just didn't think of it. And then I read the back of I think it was a crumpets the other day, and actually they had quite a lot of salt in them. Which brings me to my next thing. What can babies have and what babies can't have? So it's recommended that under the age of 12 months, babies do not have sugar or salt. You can use like natural sugar or like maple syrup, but stay away from like sugar. But again, this is at your discretion. Some things it's like, you can't avoid sugars and salts in something. Some things you buy already have salt and sugar in, like bread, for example. So you can't always avoid it. So if you can't avoid it in something, just be mindful that baby has had that salt content, and then balance out baby's meal otherwise. So now me and Rich, we don't cook with salt at all. We don't put salt in any of my cooking, and then when I serve it to me and Rich and we eat it, we add our salt afterwards. So then we know baby can have it because it's got no salt in. But as I said, like bread, I didn't know had so much salt in, so sometimes baby might have a little bit of salt, but then I try and give stuff that doesn't contain any salt to balance it out. Spices. So spices are really good ones for babies. Great way to get them used to spices and develop a palate. Anyone that knows me knows I cook with tons of garlic, so baby is already used to that. I put garlic in pretty much all my foods, but yeah, be mindful obviously of hot things like chilies and things like that, but spices, go wild. Baby can have as much spices as you want, and it's good for them to get used to the different tastes. Honey. Now, babies under the age of 1 cannot have honey. I don't know the technical term, but there is something in honey, not in all honey, but there's something that can be in honey that basically is deadly to children. It can be potentially life-threatening, basically. So no honey before the age of 1. After 1, you can then introduce honey if you want, but a great alternative to honey is maple syrup. And you only really need a real tiny bit of maple syrup if you want to sweeten things, but most stuff is actually really naturally sweet. Like, I will use bananas a lot now to sweeten things up, bananas or papaya or sweet potato to sweeten things up a little, but babies don't really need sweet stuff, so just bear that in mind when you're feeding baby. So yeah, no honey. Meat, fish, eggs all have to be fully cooked. Eggs with the lion stamp, you can serve runny at your discretion, but it's down to you. But everything, yeah, needs to be fully cooked for baby. no juice, obviously no Coke, no pops and things like that. Again, this is down to your discretion. I don't want to be like, you can't give your baby that, like it's each to your own. But no juice, no Cokes, no fizzy drinks. They're allowed water now, so they're allowed tap water. It doesn't have to be boiled after the age of 6. Not 6, sorry, 6 months. No longer has to be boiled, the water. You can serve it straight from the tap, and you don't need to sterilize any of your plates, cups or anything like that. Then it comes on to actually like how to serve food. So generally, rule of thumb for most food is serve it finger style. So 2 fingers side by side, cut it width and length sort of your fingers. So if you're making eggs, for example, when they're young, instead of serving it scrambled, serve it like an omelette strip and cut it in strips like this. It's just easier for baby to grab, easier for baby to hold. They then take off how much they want. Meat I will serve like this, fish I serve like this, avocado, banana I serve like this. Banana and avocado can be a little bit slippery, so you can roll it in like coconut if you want. I've seen people do. I personally, he deals with the slipperiness. Sometimes I mash it up next to it as well, so he's got a bit of mash and a bit to hold, or I might leave a bit of the skin on so he can grip it from the skin. But generally finger length is the best way to serve it and easier for them to grab and hold it. And you'll be surprised, because their teeth are underneath their gums. Like, I thought, how are babies supposed to eat this stuff without teeth? But because their teeth are directly under their gums, when they bite down, they literally like mush and squish everything up, which then comes to how do you cook things. So most things you can overcook slightly. Basically, you've got to think, can you squish it? So if you was cooking a carrot, for example, you should be able to squish the carrot between your fingers. If you can squish it easily, then baby can have it. Pasta the same. What else have we done? Fish, obviously fish breaks off, so it's a little easier. Things like beef and things, they're hard for them to chew, but Theo tends to just like suck all the juices out them and like mushes them up, and some bits come off, some bits don't, but he'll like take all the juices off it and keep trying. Corn on the cob, he loves just eating whole off the cob. This is a great way to serve it because they can just chew what they want. But yeah, anything that can be finger length slice, do finger length slice. Anything that's circle, so if it's like a coin shape or smaller, generally cut it into quarters, because that's what will cause them to choke. So for grapes, for example, you have to cut into quarters. Cherry tomatoes, carrots, if you're serving like this, cut them into quarters. Again, they can't be raw. If you are serving it raw, grated. Same with apples or pears, grated if you're serving raw, otherwise cook them so they're squishy. Don't do lumps of that because they're hard and they can get stuck in baby's throat. Blueberries, cut them really small or squish them. I'm trying to think what else there is that you can do. Peas and peas and sweet corn, they are really small, so they can be served as is whole. I started squishing them at the beginning just because I felt more comfortable doing it, and now I serve them whole, but it's just dependent what you want to do. Cheeses, most cheese they can have, obviously things like blue cheese, they contain mold and things like that. Don't giving babies. Feta is really high in sodium, so bear in mind what you're feeding baby, the salt content and things like that. So once they get used to the finger strips, when they get older, they can then develop what they call is pincher grip. So when they are eating finger strips, it's called palmar grasp. So the way they hold things is with their palms. So you'll see them go like this and literally like eat like this. So they're grasping it in their palm and eating around their hand. So that's why finger strips are better, so they can grasp them. When they get older, they start getting used to grabbing things between their fingers, which are called pincer grip or pincer grip. So that's when you can serve like scrambled eggs and things like that, because then they get used to picking them up. Now Theo's 8 months, so he's been doing it for 2 months. He's getting used to starting to pick things up like that, which is really great to see. But yeah, so circle objects always cut into quarters, and otherwise finger length. Obviously if they're big, so like oranges, or sometimes you get massive beetroots. You can cut them into like segments instead, so they can just bite around that. Normally if I'm serving things like a patty, like sometimes I'll make like courgette and broccoli patty things like that are round. I'll cut it in half so baby can hold it like a semicircle and bite like that. Prawns, I serve a lot of prawns, so if they're open, basically if you don't overcook the prawn should be like more of a C shape, and that way is fine to serve baby as is because they can chew it and suck it. If the tail goes in on itself, it normally means it's a bit overcooked, but then it will turn into a circle, and then once it's in a circle you then have to get rid of the roundness. So same with like broccoli or things like that, you need to make sure it's not round so it doesn't get stuck in their throat. So you'll quarter the stalk, or you'll butterfly the prawn so it gets rid of the roundness, so it's not a choking hazard basically. And I think that is pretty much it. Strawberries, if they're bigger than their palm, because you get quite big strawberries sometimes. If they're bigger than their palm, you can serve them whole so they can eat them. If they're smaller than their hand, then you'll need to quarter them again to make them safe. But we're not thick. We know our babies. Like, there's a mother's intuition there. When you're feeding your baby, when you're doing something, there's something in the back of your mind that will say, this is right or this is wrong. So I think don't stress about it. If you're not comfortable with it, cut something smaller. So like cherry tomatoes, they say you need to cut them into quarters. Sometimes I look at those quarters, I'm like, nah, they still look too big. So then I'll cut them again. So it's all about just using your knowledge of your baby. What can your baby handle? What do you feel safe in doing? And doing that, nothing is completely wrong. It's all a learning curve. You're learning together. So enjoy it, like enjoy the experience, enjoy making food together, enjoy like watching their little face when they try something new is just crazy. Like take that all in and enjoy it and just attempt it. Look, if it doesn't work out and you go back to purees, fine, but give it a go, see how you get on. And if you do need any help and if you do want any advice or anything, like my inbox is always open. Drop me a message. If I'm busy, I won't reply, but if I'm not busy, I will always reply to anybody that messages me. I do have a weaning highlights on my Instagram page, which I do share every meal that I pretty much do, if I remember to take a picture. And if I do something that looks a bit more complicated, I will always post a recipe or the ingredients for it and stuff. So yeah, just let me know. I hope your weaning journeys go well. And I'd love to see what you make for your baby. So if you do post it on your social media, please feel free to tag me. I would love to see what food you're making and love to share recipes. A lot of people asked me yesterday as well if I follow any recipes. Now, my friend did send me the What Mama Makes book by Rebecca. I don't remember her surname, but by Rebecca something. Apparently that book's really good. I haven't made anything from her book yet, just because I keep forgetting I have it. I did buy another book from her because it was like £3.50 on special on Amazon. And I made my first meal from it actually yesterday, which me and Richard and our friend ate. And I've got leftovers for Theo tonight, which was like, basically like posh chicken nuggets with a tahini dip. So I will share that one. That is actually really tasty. We had some leftovers for lunch while Theo was asleep as well, so do recommend it. There's loads out there. If you hashtag baby-led weaning recipes or inspiration, there's loads of different people you can follow. I know Joe Wicks also does something. Annabelle Carmel, I think her name is. There's quite a few out there that do different things. Have a look. Take inspiration. You don't need to follow the recipes by T. You don't need to worry about what am I going to feed my child. As I said before, they now eat the exact same thing as us. So don't overthink it and think like, oh my God, I need to meal prep. I need to plan food for my baby. No, plan food for yourself and then ask yourself, is this sensible option for my baby? If you're eating a doner kebab, obviously that's probably not a safe option for your baby. But if you're having like roast chicken and potatoes and veg, your baby can have that too. Just be mindful of the salt, mindful of like chicken skin and things like that. But just think, right, my baby's going to eat this. I'm going to put less oil in it, or I'm going to put less salt on it, or I'm going to make it a little bit more friendly for my baby. But baby can eat the exact same as you. Like oil, for example, we've started cooking more with coconut oil because it's better for baby, or sunflower oil, I think I read as well. So it's just little swaps like that. I no longer put salt in my food. I no longer cook with olive oil, I cook mainly with coconut oil. So it's all those different switches that you can do. Like, I no longer cook with semi-skim milk, I'll now use whole milk, which brings me on, I forgot about milk, full fat for everything. So where I used to buy like low fat cheese, low fat spread, semi-skim milk, now I use whole milk, full fat yogurts, everything like that, because that's what baby needs. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on because I'm already at 35 minutes, but I hope this has helped. And yeah, good luck. See you all. Bye.